All right, let's talk about one of the wildest stories in the history of tech. Seriously. It's a story about huge ambition, a near total collapse, and it come back so unbelievable it literally changed the world as we know it. This is the story of Nvidia. To really get the scale of this comeback, you have to start with this number, $4 trillion. That's what Nvidia is worth today. It's a number so huge it almost doesn't feel real. And that valuation, it's not just some stock market hype. You see, Nvidia is the engine behind pretty much every major revolution happening right now. The AI and ChatGPT, self-driving cars, the world's most powerful supercomputers, all of it runs on their stuff. They're not just predicting the future, they're actually building it. But what if I told you that this $4 trillion giant, this engine of the future, was once just 30 days away from going bankrupt? 30 days. That's how much cash they had left. 30 days until the lights went out for good. So that's the big question, right? How in the world does a company go from the absolute brink of extinction to becoming one of the most dominant forces on the planet? Well, it's an incredible story of failure, pure desperation, and a vision that almost nobody else could see. To find that answer, we've got to go back to the exact moment it all went wrong. The moment a single bad bet pushed them into a death spiral. And the timeline of their collapse is just brutal. It all happened so fast. In 1993, Nvidia is just a promising startup. By 96, they hit the absolute jackpot, a huge contract with the gaming giant Sega. This was supposed to be their big break. But then, in the very same year, Microsoft drops a bomb called DirectX. It changes the entire game. And just like that, Sega pulls out. The contract, the money, their future, all that just gone. So what happened? Well, this slide shows the fatal flaw. Nvidia had bet the farm on a really elegant, complex technology that used curves for 3D graphics. The problem? Microsoft's new standard, DirectX, used triangles, and triangles became the industry standard almost overnight. Developers found Nvidia's tech a nightmare to work with, and suddenly their main chip was basically a paperweight. This quote, it just says it all. The Sega money was gone, their product was useless, and they were burning through what little cash they had left. The CEO, Jensen Huang, was literally walking around the office dimming the lights himself just to save a few pennies on the power bill. That's how close they were to the end.
So, with their backs against the wall and only a month of cash left, most companies would have just folded. But not Nvidia. Instead, they decided to make one of the biggest, craziest, all-or-nothing gambles in business history.
They had one last shot, a new chip called the Riva 128. But they had no money to build prototypes to test it. So they did something that was just unheard of. They designed the entire thing in software. They tested it only with simulations. They built zero physical models. They just crossed their fingers and sent the final design straight to the factory, praying it would actually work. And yeah, the stakes could not have been higher. There was no plan B. There was absolutely no room for error. If that software simulation was wrong, even by a little bit, the chip would be junk and Nvidia would be history. Game over. So the first chips come back from the factory. You can just imagine the tension. They plug one in, and it worked. It didn't just work, it worked perfectly. They launched the Riva 128, and the market went absolutely nuts for it. They sold 1 million of them. And get this, they sold that 1 million units in just 4 months. It was nothing short of a miracle. That single, desperate, insane gamble paid off. Nvidia was saved. They had survived. But survival, it turned out, was just the beginning. Okay, and this is where the story pivots from just survival to something truly revolutionary. It's about a vision for the future that, at the time, almost no one else could see. It all comes down to this idea: parallel computing. Now, most computer chips work one step at a time, just really, really fast. But NVIDIA's graphics chips could do thousands of little calculations all at the same time. This was perfect for making video games look amazing. But their CEO saw something bigger. He saw a future in science, in research, and eventually in artificial intelligence. And this became their next huge bet. In 2006, they released a software platform called CUDA, which let developers tap into all that parallel computing power. For years, pretty much everyone was skeptical. People laughed, but Nvidia kept pouring money into it. And then, in 2012, it happened. An AI model called AlexNet, built using their GPUs, didn't just win a huge AI competition. It completely shattered every record. That was the moment. That was the light bulb that went off for the entire tech industry. Suddenly, everyone understood what Nvidia had been saying for years. These chips, these GPUs, they weren't just for making games look pretty. They were the most powerful AI engines on the planet. And that realization, it set the stage for everything that was to come. Nvidia wasn't just going to be part of the AI revolution. They had built the very foundation for it. They were about to become the undisputed king. I mean, just look at the results today. Every single major AI breakthrough you hear about, from ChatGPT to self-driving cars, it's all running on Nvidia. They're helping discover new drugs, they're simulating global climate change, they're literally powering the modern world. And here's the real genius of their strategy. While all these other companies were chasing the next hot trend, Nvidia was quietly in the background building the picks and shovels for gold rush they knew was coming. They built the platform that made all those other trends possible. So, after all that, what do we take away from this incredible journey? What's the real lesson from this impossible comeback story? When you really break it down, it wasn't just one thing. It was their humility to admit they got it wrong with that first chip. It was the raw courage to bet it all and rebuild from scratch. And it was that long-term vision to see a future no one else did. And through it all, they just refused to die. That's why this story is so powerful. It's not really about silicon and stock prices. It's a fundamentally human story about resilience. It's about staring failure right in the face and finding the strength to take one more impossible shot. And that really leaves you with one final thought. NVIDIA proves that today's giants can come from yesterday's failures. And it makes you wonder, what impossible comeback story, maybe in the world around you, or maybe even in your own life, is just waiting to be written?